I noticed something last night that I found really interesting. I wanted to share. Um, it's a pattern in my life, and the short version is that I I got that I've been doing things and not doing things that would predictably or might predictably lead to getting the attention of my mother, um, Allison. Um, so I wanted to attract certain kinds of attention from her, and I just recognized. I guess I've been recognizing it like for a while, but I don't know that I've ever said it before. So yesterday I said it to a couple people, and um, I knew there was a little more to it, so I wrote a little more this morning. Um, so yeah, in wanting to attract certain kind of attention from her, I displayed weakness or um, ineffectiveness or neediness. And when I say I displayed it, I could also say I pretended to be needy, or like I didn't do things that I could have done. And I actually kind of trained myself to display neediness. I don't even know if this is a very accurate way of describing things, but it's a new way of describing things for me that I like. I'll get more into that later. So the kinds of neediness that I had developed were health breakdowns, financial breakdowns, relationship breakdowns. I even mentioned legal breakdowns, like just being in jail, but also being out of money and in jail, out of money and not in jail. Health breakdowns, the loss of the ability to walk in early 2007 was the main one, and relationship breakdowns, just like things that would give me an urgency to connect with my mom, like by phone, and say, hey, I need you, I need your help, or I'd like your help, or at least have that in mind. Testing her for, will she help me too? There's another layer of this was, does she love me? Well, let's find out. How about if I construct a drama in which there's a test for her. I'm really, in fact, needy. Like some of the breakdowns were. None of this was like pretended in the conventional sense of the word pretended. It wasn't like I pretended not to have any money. I actually didn't have any money, but I'm saying I was pretending to be um, ineffective. I'm saying that now as a acknowledgement that I could be more responsible, and I have been more responsible? Well, I'm suggesting that maybe, at least maybe, I could have, but I didn't. So anyway, um, so I developed situations, or situations developed in which I experienced an urgent need to call her and explore the possibility of her assisting me in some way, as in testing to see if she loves me. Obviously, my sense was that she could love me, or I wouldn't have bothered, right? But might not already, as of whenever these things were going on, even now, whatever. So maybe she doesn't love me, but would if I had an urgent need. Maybe I would actually attract love from her too, attract support. Um, Maybe she does love me, but I just need to, um, you know, create a space for her to connect with me and support me, which could be like a really good thing. It certainly gave me a context to contact her um, when I might not have otherwise. It also gave me a context in which I would like be withdrawn from contacting with her. So there's a double thing that goes on with this that I wrote a little bit about as well. But like I would wait to contact her until things were pretty extreme and urgent. So I had that kind of dual thing going on where I would not be in communication with her. I didn't want her attention, but I wanted certain kinds of attention, or I had situations where I could invite certain or request certain kinds of attention from her. Um, So deeper than wanting to attract her attention as a rescuer, like all the attention I got from her when I was 6 and broke my leg. She helped me with lots and lots of things. Deeper than wanting to attract that rescuer attention was wanting to avoid her attention. So I also wanted to avoid her attention. I knew that already. So in other words, wanting to first avoid and then attract her attention, I wanted to control our interaction, control her attention, control her in general, whatever. So the pattern of indirect manipulations to control others, including their attention, like toward me, has showed up in other relations besides with my mother. So this is like this whole network of patterns are related to this one pattern. So I accept responsibility for manipulating others, or at least trying, whether unconsciously or consciously, including consciously. So by the way, perhaps controlling others is imprecise language. The saying, I'm trying to control her, or I'm controlling her, or I'm controlling myself, or whatever. Maybe the root issue was the idea that I could control others, or even myself. Like I am willing to question that now. That came up very naturally in the process of noticing all this stuff. Is, oh, well, how true is all of that? Or how is all of that true? So I did what I did, and I did it how I did it. She did, whoever, people do the things they do, and they do it how they do it. So all that stuff happened. It's just like, well, that happened. I acknowledged that my pattern could be described, at least for my present purposes, as I was trying to control her attention in relation to me. Like, of course. Like everybody does this. And this idea of controlling other people's attention, it's just one way of saying it. Things just happened however they happened, right? So I noticed some things and perceived some things, and some of those perceptions may have been incomplete or wrong in terms of my beliefs about her, my beliefs about myself, my descriptions of whatever, or even all of the things that I perceive may be wrong or incomplete. Like ever. So the idea of personal control, as in free will, is questionable. At least I question it. The idea that I ever have control over anything, really, it's like a relative term or a relative phrasing. In some ways, sure, control fits as a word to use. Does my mom have control over me or over her or whatever? Well, those are relative terms. So the idea of individuals struggling in a control contest or in a power struggle is questionable as an interpretation, one possible valid interpretation. So I could say I was frustrated and I focused on my mom as a possible resource to support me in a breakthrough or a breakdown, and then having a breakthrough after a breakdown. So I could describe things like that, like I had financial breakdowns, I had health breakdowns, whatever, and I was frustrated, like I didn't know what to do, and then I focused on my mom as one possible resource at least. So of all the people that I comment about, the one that I most ongoingly and with like across all of these different instances, the one I seem most frequently to think of is my mom. So that's why I make all these references and why it came up in relation to my mom. So I could say I was frustrated and I focused on her as a possible resource. That doesn't sound bad. That sounds very neutral. I could be silent, though. I don't need to say anything. Like the past, just however it was. I could say this happened, then that, and then I called my mom for help, and then next, whatever, right? So there's lots of ways I could say things. I could say I tried to trick her into loving me, or tried to manipulate her into supporting me, or caring for me or just giving me her attention or whatever. It worked or it didn't work, all those things, just whatever. There's all whatever. So I have a lot of peace and freedom. When I say a lot of, I mean I have peace and freedom and relief. So I could say people should help me. Is that true though? How? How is it true? How might it be true that people should help me? For instance, people should help me, like in a particular case. Well, I've said, I don't know if I've said it out loud, but I've had in mind, well, certain people really should help me, at least in such and such circumstances. In those circumstances, those people should help me. So those are some of the things that I've said or believed, even if I didn't say them out loud. They were operating ideas, whether in the foreground or the background. So a subtle distinction in the work of Byron Katie, which is actually called The Work, is that ideas are not true or false, or not only true or false, but also true only in certain ways. Like every statement, every idea, every assertion is relatively true. How is it true? We can explore that. How could it be true? And find, generally speaking, we don't have an absolute yes or an absolute no, other than like in mathematics. 1 is not equal to 5, that's it. But if I say the sky is orange, well, not right now, but sometimes it is orange, right? I was actually looking out the window. I see the sky is light blue, as far as I can tell. But somebody, whatever. We don't need to argue. Why would I argue the sky is light blue? It's light blue, from my perception. That's it. It's not that important. So things that are important relative to me or whoever. All right, so how could it be true that I've been trying to control my mom? By avoiding her or avoiding talking to her or avoiding her in person and so on. Moving away at the end of high school, moving away to college is one of the things I've said for a long time, even maybe right after I did it. I am moving away to avoid or reduce my interaction with my mom. Other things I've been doing to control my mom or my relationship with her is attracting her attention with dramatic emergencies, like I was talking about, breakdowns in finances and health, etc. Talking with her, like anything that I say to my mom or anyone else is trying to control her. Not like absolute control, but like influence, like direct, like make a difference. So another thing, trying to control her could be giving her the silent treatment. So whether I'm just avoiding communication with her or during a conversation, like I'm just not talking, I'm being silent, maybe withholding, maybe thinking things but not saying them, whatever. Another thing is impressing her or trying to impress her, seeking her approval or trying to seek her approval, seeking her agreement or trying to seek her agreement, but also arguing with her, like picking arguments. Saying picking a fight, picking an argument. I probably did that more as a teenager than I have since then. But when I lived with her, I did. I don't think of a particular thing, but anyway, I definitely did things that I know could annoy her as a teenager and earlier. So other things that I could say were ways that it was true that I was trying to control my mom was just by rebelling. If I knew that she had a certain expectation, I just didn't do it. That counts as rebelling to me. So this reminds me of a teenager I once knew, me, I wrote. This reminds me of a few toddlers as well. Like this is just human. How could it be true that I controlled her? Well, I influenced her. When I spoke, I influenced her. When I was present physically near her, that influenced her, like even crawling by, or walking by, or slamming the door, or cutting a hole in her container of glue and then hiding it, or finishing the leftovers, especially if that was not expected, or making tea, or just living. And no matter what I do, if I'm around my mom in particular, then it's going to influence her life. So I'm just kind of like really softening this whole thing about control. Yes, I've been trying to control my mom. I might again. Humanity. So, thanks for your attention. As a note, whoever it is that is watching this. So I influence people. People influence me. I'm also trained to avoid or filter the influence of people, including my mom. In other words, one of the people I influence is me. I'm responsible for my life. If something happens, I claim responsibility for it. If someone influences me, why not be responsible, even for their influence or control of me? I experience the effects, so why not be responsible or claim responsibility in speaking in language? If I influence someone, how is it true that I'm responsible for how their life goes? My mom, whoever. Well, I can't change my mom, I might say, or I might have said. Well, how's that true? Also, how do I actually change her? How has she changed? Out of my speaking, I'm creating it. I'm making it up. Yeah, there's perception and all that stuff, but like I could go with it. How have I changed her? It would be an exploration, and I would, find certain things really resonate with me, and certain others might not. But how are they true? So this goes along with the kind of sense of freedom and peace, openness. This whole how is it true thing. So life would not be the same without me, or without my mom, etc., without anyone or anything. Life is exactly what it is because it's exactly what it is. It wouldn't be the same with any particular thing different. Life is complete. My life wouldn't be the same without me. That's a pretty darn silly thing to say. My mom's life would not be the same without me. My life wouldn't be the same without her. So life is just the way it is. Life changes constantly. Life is just the way it is, and life changes constantly. My life is just the way it is, and my life changes constantly. My mother and her life is just the way it is. She's just the way she is. And she changes constantly. Her life changes constantly. Life and everything, everyone, is just the way it is and constantly changing. Freedom, peace, responsibility. A couple of the qualities that I have noticed emerging. Yay. Thanks again. Salute.